You can say you're a woman. Do you have a menstrual cycle? Do you lactate? Do you gestate a child? Is your body built the same way? No, it is not. Just because you call yourself a woman and perhaps you dress like a woman and all these other things does not make you a woman. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Today, a female fencer takes a knee. And no, not for the reason that NFL players took a knee. I'm Michele Tafoya. Welcome. Please subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening, Rumble, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to have you with us every single time. I want to talk about this because we talk about this women's sports issue as though it's all a done deal, that Donald Trump signed an executive order and now everything's good. But it's not. We've still got issues in Maine, in California. We've got biological boys competing against women. And this time we're going to focus on fencing. And I really don't care what the sport is. We know this. There is so much evidence that men are stronger, quicker, faster, etc. Okay? This is an unfair advantage for men. It can be dangerous for women. And so there's a safety issue. There's a fairness issue. I can't even believe we're still talking about this. And I don't know whom I'm trying to convince. It seems like it's a pretty, should transgender female, and that means a male transitioning to a woman, athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? 18% of respondents in a recent poll said yes. 79% said no. This is basically an 80-20 issue. So why is this happening? Who are the politicians that think this is a good idea? Who are the people standing in the way of this being just completely a black and white situation of women have their division, men have theirs? We're not saying trans athletes can't compete. Compete in your biological lane. So I want to read to you a little bit. This woman was interviewed, this fencer. Her name is Stephanie Turner, and she's brave. I'll read to you from this article. Women's fencer Stephanie Turner took her mask off and got on a knee in front of her transgender opponent. Ahead of a bout at the Cherry Blossom Open in Maryland over the weekend, Turner, who is 31 years old, made the decision not to compete against trans athlete Redmond Sullivan. And Turner also wanted to make sure her refusal was caught on video for the world to see. We have seen it. Turner came to the decision the night before the event when she checked the competition pools and saw that she would be competing against Sullivan, whom she had read about in an article last year. Quote, I saw that I was going to be in a pool with Redmond, and from there I said, okay, let's do it. I'm going to take the knee. This is an interview Turner gave to Fox News Digital. Turner went through all her warm-ups that day and went on to fence in 4 hours before her matchup with the trans athlete, or 4 bouts rather. So she's in this pool, right? You're competing 4 bouts, and then she was matched up with this trans athlete. And when that match came, she said she was nervous and shaky, but was sure about her decision. Quote, I knew what I had to do because USA Fencing had not been listening to women's objections regarding its gender eligibility policy, Turner said. I took a knee immediately at that point. Redmond was under the impression, that's the trans woman, was under the impression that I was going to start fencing. So when I took the knee, I looked at the ref and said, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I am a woman and this is a man. And this is a woman's tournament. And I will not fence this individual. Okay, kudos for the courage. She intentionally did this in front of the world. She didn't do it behind the scenes. She did it on camera. We're showing you clips. Redmond didn't hear me, and he comes up to me and he thinks that I might be hurt or he doesn't understand what's happening. He asks, are you okay? And I said, I'm sorry. I have much love and respect for you, but I will not fence you. And right after that, Turner's punishment by USA Fencing commenced. We're going to tell you about that punishment. I hope she's sleeping well after this decision. She should be. And if she's not, she might want to try Sleep Cream. Sleep Cream is an all-natural CBD-based, it's a topical. So look, if you have trouble sleeping, and I certainly used to until I started using Sleep Cream, I apply it on the insides of my wrists, forearms, and elbows at bedtime, and it allows me to relax. Okay, so here's the deal. A lot of people will say, oh, you need to take a drug. You need to take, you don't. This Sleep Cream is remarkable. Like I said, all natural CBD, plus it's got some aromatherapy involved, wonderful scents that you can choose from. Just go to sleepcream.com, sleepcreme.com. They guarantee their product. They stand behind it. So if you're not satisfied, you just let them know and they'll work it out with you. So go to sleepcream.com, use the code GAMEDAY at checkout, GAMEDAY, all one word at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. That's code GAMEDAY, courtesy of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Use that code at checkout to get free standard shipping on your first order. Sleepcreme.com. I'm not the only one who uses it. We've been getting lots of emails from listeners and other users who say this stuff is remarkable. It's helped me. People who are dealing with injuries, people who are dealing with, headaches, they are finding this helps them relax and go to sleep. CBD. If you're curious about it, you might want to check into sleepcream.com. You will understand that this is a pure, all natural product that will help you sleep. Go to sleepcreme.com, C-R-E-M-E, sleepcream.com, code GAMEDAY at checkout, free standard shipping on your first order, sleepcream.com for your best night's sleep. Now back to this story, because it's even though the president, Donald Trump, signed this executive order in the Oval Office, saying that biological men may not compete against women. There are states, there are school districts, there are clearly USA Fencing is allowing this. So we've been telling you about this woman who took a knee and told her trans female opponent, I'm sorry, I have much love and respect for you, but I will not fence you. And right after that, her punishment by USA Fencing commenced. This is a woman, 31 years old, who's been fencing her entire life to compete against other women in a sport where you've got a men's division and a women's division, and you have those divisions for a reason. Quote, Redmond says to me, well, there is a member on the board of directors here who supports me, and there is a policy that acknowledges me as a woman, so I am allowed to fence, and you will get black carded. And I said, I know, Turner said, black carded for standing up for women. Minutes later, the referees dealt Turner a black card, which represents the most severe penalty leading to expulsion from the tournament or event for serious rule infractions or unsportsmanlike behavior. Listen to this. Turner said she was then escorted to the bout committee where she had to explain what she did. She says the members then handed her a copy of the association's transgender policy and made her sign a document acknowledging the black card. Turner said she signed the document under objection. Then Turner was escorted out of the venue, she said. Stephanie Turner, I hope people will remember her name and her action for standing up for girls and women in sports. USA Fencing provided a statement addressing the incident. Quote, USA Fencing enacted our current transgender and non-binary athlete policy in 2023. The policy was designed to expand access to the sport of fencing and create inclusive, safe spaces. Is it really safe for a woman to be fencing against a man? Now, you can argue that. And I bet this woman is a far better fencer than a lot of men who don't have any experience fencing. But gosh, can we just acknowledge the chromosomal differences? Can we acknowledge science here? Can we acknowledge biology? We all know. We all know this is unfair, and yet we allow these organizations to continue this absolutely ridiculous policy. Okay, USA Fencing enacted our current transgender and non-binary athlete policy in 2023. The policy was designed to expand access to the sport of fencing and create inclusive, safe spaces. Increase access. This transgender had access to the men's division. Biological men can all compete in the men's division. So no one's denying access. Put the person in the appropriate division. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, you think that men can compete against women so that we can expand access? You know what you're also doing? While you're catering to this very small minority of people, you are stepping on a slippery slope. How many additional transgender women, biological men who now present or identify as women, will go into the women's division and begin to dominate the sport? Oh, there are so few. Give it time. Oh, there are so few. There used to be none. So this woman has now been excluded for her beliefs in the truth. Again, I've said this before. You're asking us to perpetuate a lie that biological men are women when they're not. The policy is based on the principle that everyone should have the ability to participate in sports and was based upon the research available of the day, the statement read. Well, you might want to update your data and your research. I mean, it really doesn't take a lot of science to understand that men clear higher hurdles, they can jump farther, they can jump higher, they move differently, and they are stronger on average than women. So this is a woke policy that they decided, oh, this is really trendy right now, non-binary, whatever. No one's saying they can't compete. No one is trying to exclude them from competition. But it has to be fair. And this isn't fair. Do you notice any trans men competing on the men's side? That should be your answer right there. Trans men, biological women, now identifying as men. Are they competing against the men, or are they staying in the women's lane? Go do that research. That'll tell you a lot. Here's the continuing the USA Fencing statement. We respect the viewpoints on all sides. No, you don't. And encourage our members to continue sharing them with us as the matter evolves. Yeah, you're evolving. The matter is evolving. And in the meantime, this woman got expelled from a tournament. While the matter evolves. It's important for the fencing community to engage in this dialogue, but we expect this conversation to be conducted respectfully, whether at our tournaments or in online spaces. The way to progress is by respectful discussion based in evidence. I can't think of anything more respectful than this woman saying, I respect you, I have love for you, I will not compete against you because it's not fair. But she got a black card and she was booted and escorted out of the tournament. A USA Fencing spokesperson also told, again, this is from a Fox News digital article, that Turner was not penalized for her stance against trans inclusion, but simply for refusing to fence. But they showed her the policy. You can't have it both ways. They showed her the policy on transgenders in this sport in USA Fencing and made her sign off on the black card. They didn't say, oh, your refusal to fence. They showed her the policy. Quote, in the case of Stephanie Turner, her disqualification was not related to any personal statement, but was merely the direct result of her decision to decline to fence an eligible opponent which the FIE rules clearly prohibit, the spokesperson said. Good way to cover yourself. According to the FIE, which is the International Fencing Federation, technical rules, specifically Article T113, a fencer is not permitted to refuse to fence another properly entered fencer for any reason. Under these rules, such a refusal results in disqualification and the corresponding sanctions. This policy exists to maintain fair competition standards and preserve the sport's integrity. Sorry, USA Fencing. Sorry, International Fencing Federation. You've lost your integrity. This is not fairness. To ask a woman to fence a male, a trans woman. Turner said she had not heard anything back from the organization since the incident. It was an incident she had actively tried to avoid at prior events. Turner said she previously refused to enter multiple past fencing events that included other transgender fencers that she knew about. It's an issue that she made an effort to stay on top of for her own awareness and safety. Quote, in previous years, when I had known about transgender fencers being present, I just wouldn't register. But for this one, Redmond must have signed up after me, Turner said. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to God. If this person shows up in my event and is on my script, then I would take a knee. And that would be God's will. Okay, so she's clearly a woman of faith. It was not a decision she came to lightly, however. Turner paid close attention to the Protect Women's Sports movement that has emerged in recent years and the backlash and harassment faced by the women who took part in it. She recalled the story of Riley Gaines being held hostage and assaulted at San Francisco State University in 2023. Riley was on our show shortly after that incident and told us how she had to she was in a room and couldn't leave. They were asking her for ransom money, these protesters outside this room, and she couldn't leave because she's standing up for fairness for women in sports, something that we thought was enshrined in Title IX. The idea of backlash haunted Turner, but wasn't good enough to stop her from taking a knee. Quote, it will probably, at least for a moment, destroy my life. I don't think that it's going to be easy for me from now on to go to fencing tournaments. I don't think it's going to be easy for me at practice, Turner said. It's very hard for me to do this. For Turner, one of the sacrifices she's most concerned about is impeding the friendship she has with people in the LGBT community, whom she said she doesn't currently know about. Who she said don't currently know about her stance on the issue. As a lifelong Democrat, Turner insists she never opposed LGBTQ people, but the issue of trans inclusion of women's sports has driven her away from supporting the party, and she now identifies as a, quote, new Republican conservative. This issue matters to people spiritually, fair in terms of their politics. And obviously she sacrificed a ton. I voted red down the ticket this year, Turner said. It was like waking up to the lies of the mainstream media. Just to watch so many of my friends have this glassy-eyed look while just defending this policy because their brains cannot manage the possibility that their party or their position has been wrong on this. And perhaps this isn't a civil rights movement and they have been misled. Let me read that paragraph again in case you didn't get it all. This is Turner, the woman who disqualified herself. Quote, I voted red down the ticket this year, Turner said. It was like waking up to the lies of the mainstream media. Just to watch so many of my friends have this glassy-eyed look while just defending this policy because their brains cannot manage the possibility that their party or their position has been wrong on this. And perhaps this isn't a civil rights movement and they have been misled. Turner added that she fully supports President Donald Trump cutting funding to states that allow trans athletes to compete in women's and girls' sports. Quote, something needs to be done. And there are activists who have embedded themselves in authoritative positions in sports bodies. She is right about that. Look, we've had someone quit the NCAA because of this issue of allowing trans women into female sports. He was on our show. We've had Riley Gaines. We've seen the stances of Martina Navratilova, one of the greatest tennis players we've seen, of Caitlyn Jenner, who used to be Bruce Jenner, who was a decathlon gold medalist in the Olympics, now a woman saying this isn't fair. We know the evidence is there. It's an 80-20 issue. I'm not trying to convince you. I guess what I'm asking is, can we all support this fencer, this woman, and other women who are saying, you know what, I'm not going to compete against you. It's not fair. I've trained my whole life as a woman. You can say you're a woman. Do you have a menstrual cycle? Do you lactate? Do you gestate a child? Is your body built the same way? No, it is not. Just because you call yourself a woman and perhaps you dress like a woman and all these other things does not make you a woman. And I hate that this has been conflated with some sort of transphobia or trans hate. It is not. Compete all you want. Compete in your division. It is unfair for Leah Thomas to be ranked in the bottom, 10% of male swimmers and to say, okay, you know what, then I'll go compete against women and win an NCAA championship. Example after example. Now you can say, oh, some men are more effeminate. It doesn't matter. We have to draw a line. This is a slippery slope. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. I thought the boxing at the Olympics in Paris was going to be the final straw. Hey, here we are. We're still in this. So if defunding these organizations is the way to go, suing, taking a knee, refusing to compete is so powerful. No one would have known this story otherwise. Maybe we would have heard a little bit about it, but I'm going to try to get this woman, Miss Turner, on my show because I want to commend her. I want to congratulate her and I want to hear from her. In the meantime, she was brave. She did good. And I end every podcast asking you to do the same. If you have a daughter, a sister, a wife, a girlfriend, a non-binary who is biologically female. I don't know why we're trying to cancel out gender to say that, you're non-binary. Okay. You can put yourself on whatever part of the gender spectrum you would like. That is fine. But biologically, you are either female or male. And these tiny little exceptions should not affect the policies. People are always looking for that tiny little exception, that way to be the victim, that way to be the one person who matters more than everyone else. That's not what it's about. I encourage you to look into this more, be brave, do good, and we will see you next time. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.